Hello and welcome to the AttendStar Happy Hour podcast, where we talk about all things ticketing, marketing, and logistics. Today is our season finale. It's the last episode of the season, which is a little sad, but this has been really cool to do, and I hope it's been helpful to a lot of you. And the second season is to be determined, and we will announce that rather soon, so be on the lookout for that. But today it's all about air show logistics. Logistical problems that air shows face are significant, and just because of the nature of the event. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. And there's no one better to talk about that with other than Gary Bradshaw, the president of AttendStar. And Gary, we just had a huge air show out in Arizona, Glendale, Arizona, Luke Days 2024. And we had a significant involvement at that show. And I think that every single air show, whether it's civilian or military, it seems that we continue to learn even after doing it for so long.
Absolutely.
How'd the weekend go?
Weekend was fabulous. It was an ideal situation for logistics. And the reason it was ideal was because every team on its own, whether it was the Air Force, the parking, the traffic, did a good job in their own world. But when you mixed all their worlds together, we had issues.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're going to talk about here in a minute is messaging. And I think that's crucial to success. To have one person review the messaging for everything from everybody.
Yeah.
So it's cohesive.
Right. Yeah. We don't want ticket buyers to be confused. We don't want the public to be confused.
Right.
In this case, a military show, general admission is free. And in this case in particular, if you're driving to the event and you're parking at the show, you need a parking pass. Right.
For this particular event, that's true, yeah.
Which, if you can anticipate and think about that a little bit, general admission is free. I think when the public hears that, maybe a lot of people think, okay, I don't need to do anything. I can just show up, right? And then here's the challenge of, okay, how do we effectively communicate to the general public that they need a parking pass?
Absolutely.
To park.
Right.
There's also rideshare, which is becoming more and more popular in the world, and that's also an option. So, is a parking pass truly required for everybody? Well,
probably not. If you live on base, you don't need a parking pass.
If you live on base, you don't need a parking pass.
But that's a good example of the kind of questions we got.
Exactly. And you can kind of see the domino effect of, okay, well, let's think about people who live on base. Let's think about people who are using, ride share. Let's think about, are people riding bikes to the air show?
Absolutely.
And you end up building a very detailed FAQ list and a lot of information that people need to read about to really understand what needs to happen before they come.
Absolutely. What's interesting is that each group at an air show, like I mentioned earlier, does a great job in isolation. Together, they usually don't. I think knowing what phone numbers could ring at an event is important. For example, this is common to all shows, we would get things like, somebody's calling me on my number, but I don't know where the calls are coming from. So having a list of what phone numbers show up where would be important to make sure we have the conversations going to the right people. There's so many things logistically. I mean, I'll give you another example of one thing that usually, I've only seen one show do it this way. But when people come into the parking lots off of a 2-lane road, for example, sometimes they'll put the gates right up to the lot so that there's about 5 cars can get between the entrance to the lot and the actual scanning or the ticket taking section. The problem is that backs up traffic on the 2-lane road. And if that 2-lane road is on its way to another lot, then the traffic to that particular lot and another lot become affected. The solution to that is when you've got 6,000 parking spaces, move the gate in about 500 feet and then let people get off of the 2-lane road and stand and just park on the grass waiting to get logged in. And as the parking lot fills, the traffic will go down because it's near the end of the arrival time. Then you can actually move the gate closer to the road.
Mm.
Now, I've only seen one show do that. Thank you, Cleveland National Air Show. And but I think that kind of thing is very, very important. And
Yeah.
I know that we say ticketing, marketing, logistics, and today we're talking logistics. But when I started the company to do air shows, I never realized the relationship between ticketing, marketing, and logistics. We were doing ticketing like most ticketing companies. They do ticketing. And then I thought, wow, we should be doing marketing because the connection between the emails that we have and the emails that we need and things like that, and be able to notify people of know before you go emails that you do so well.
Right.
And then I realized, okay, logistics, okay, that plays a part in it because when they arrive at the show, we got to figure out how to make their life easier. And that was something I've never done in all the years I've been promoting events.
Yeah.
So that was just a result. This is our 15th year of doing air shows. And yes, I've probably been to a couple hundred air shows. And I've learned a lot, and I learn a lot every time I go.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
And it's not cookie cutter ever.
No.
It's never cookie cutter.
No.
Because the layout of the base is different, base to base or airport to airport.
Absolutely.
Even when it comes to events outside of air shows, fairs, whatever it is, it's always different.
It is.
Parking lots are in different places. Yeah. The navigation to the event's obviously different. Traffic's going to be different depending on the volume of attendees. And I think that it's really important to just be ready to work on the fly,
Absolutely.
and adapt.
Absolutely. And I want to add about the parking always being different is that the one thing that I've learned in 15 years of this is that sometimes the air show will expect 100,000 people. Mm-hmm. And we have to keep in mind that not all 100,000 will park. Mm-hmm. And the reason that's important is because the infrastructure for the roads going to the parking lots may not accommodate 30,000 cars. This past weekend, for example, we were thinking 21,000. It was actually good. The number we had was actually less than that, but it was great because the infrastructure to those lots could not have supported that many. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that we need as air show producers and to help the air show industry, I think it was worth our while to share in emails that traffic will be a problem, kind of like a good bedside manner for a doctor.
Be completely transparent.
Absolutely, because when the public is used to going to a 50,000 seat stadium and parking in a parking lot that's got 35,000 car spaces with lines and painted on the asphalt with parking companies that do the baseball game or the football game every week or every 2 weeks. An air show is once every year or 2 or 3. And the parking lots are usually grass or sand. There is no painted lines. There's some guidelines for the parking attendants. So my point of my story is that letting people know that if the air show is at 11 o'clock, for example, don't think you're going to arrive at 10:30 and make it work.
Oh, no.
I mean, you need to be there at 8:30 or 8 o'clock. That's why some air shows that do that, cars will start lining up at 7 a.m. And while you might think I'm not going to get up at 7 a.m., the show is worth it. I mean, these shows are phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, they're life-changing for families and for people. And from an investment standpoint, it's an all-day experience for a pretty good price. So, I think the thing that we try to look at AttendStar, learning from our ticketing world, is that we know how many people are arriving pretty much every 15 minutes between 8 a.m. and noon. We've got thousands and millions of scanned record reports to tell us when people arrive that I look at because I like geeky stuff. And so I think what's important is like you said, be completely transparent with the audience that, there will be traffic delays. If you don't like sitting in traffic for an hour, it may not be for you. There's nothing wrong with saying that, because at the end of the day, we want people to have a good time. And if they're not happy with the traffic, they'll arrive unhappy at the air show. Then they're going to line up for the gate. Then they're going to line up for security. And it's going to seem overwhelming, but we have to remember that these are large events that are complicated. And if you're on a military base, 365, 2 or 3 days a year, whatever, the military is totally focused on keeping us out. Then it reverses its role, and now they're totally focused on helping us in. That doesn't work well together.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the beast, I guess I will call it.
Right. And it's never anybody's fault.
It really isn't. It's just they're doing for 2 days a year or for 2 days every 4 years, they're doing the opposite of what they normally do.
Yeah.
And these airports, we have to remember, they're not designed for 10 or 20, 30,000 cars at an airport that does an air show. Now, at an international airport, like Nashville International, yeah, that's different, but not for an air show. They're just not designed for that. So the attendee is getting ready to experience something they've never experienced before. So it can be a little overwhelming, but I think letting people know what time they should arrive is important, because you're going to reduce the number of complaints.
Right. Yeah. And I think really the purpose of why we're talking about this today is just to give air shows specifically some good tips on what to expect, what to plan for. Leadership for the air shows change all the time.
It does.
And there are a lot of people who have never done it before, who are in that position to make decisions. And I think that talking about this could potentially help ease some of those pains that a lot of air show promoters experience once the air show's 2 weeks away. So, what are some things that you can think of specifically that many air show promoters experience and run into once the event's about to happen that I guess wasn't necessarily anticipated?
Well, there's a lot. So I think the secret to happiness in doing an air show is realizing it's not going to be perfect, number one.
Right.
But number two, I think we really have to realize nowadays that, I'm not sure why, but if you're doing volunteers, 30% of the volunteers will not show up.
Yeah.
If you're doing paid attendance, paid people in the parking lots and the gates to do things, 15% won't show up.
General rule of thumb.
It's just it's not going to happen. And I think what we have to consider is that they're not always going to show up. The good news is like our scanners, for example, are all high-speed scanners, and we try to optimize the check-in process. But some of the things that can go wrong, I mean, I see it at every show. It's just phenomenally amazing. And there are little things too. Number one, it's on my list I'm building. I'm going to share it with everybody, by the way.
Yeah.
But I'm building a list, and number one on the list is don't forget to treat the volunteers well. They're your key to happiness. And I've seen situations where food and water didn't arrive at all. And the volunteers in some cases have a medical condition. They just get in their car and leave and don't come back.
And rightfully so.
Yeah. They have to have food and water. They have to have orange vests. Yeah. You have to remember the safety of the volunteers. I mean, the young volunteers, way younger than me, is that they'll remember they've got a lot of energy. They will run between gates to go get a new scanner or a new battery or to ask somebody a question. We really don't want the volunteers running between the gates. We want them staying put. And if they need assistance, they raise their hand or raise an American flag, or let them stay put and let the runner manager of the gate come to them, because the young folks will turn, pivot, and just run.
Yeah.
Forget about the cars that are coming through the gate. The people that are driving the cars, they're lost. They don't know what to do. And so we don't want a young volunteer doing exactly the same thing.
Right.
But those are kind of the number one things. Don't forget to give them breaks. This basic stuff like that we just forget about in the planning.
Yeah.
This weekend, the company that did the parking at Luke Air Force Base did a great job.
Yeah.
And they had all those things first. They had beautiful vests printed and made, and
That's great.
they did a great job. But there's like so many details because there's so many moving parts. Entrances to parking lots need to be clearly marked with cones so that people don't run into ditches. I mean, the list is hundreds. I've got right now 146 items on my list, and I'd be glad to share it with anybody for free, whether you use AttendStar or not.
Yeah.
In fact, I am also willing to talk to people that are trying to figure out logistical issues.
Yeah.
So, and if you use one of our competitors, fine, but the show must be good.
Yeah.
That's the secret for the air show industry, is the air show must be good.
Yeah, that's really cool. And we go back to the messaging piece of everything. When you have so many different channels that you're working with, from the ticket sales page, the ticketing company in general, the email campaigns, the event website, potentially the military website,
Yep.
Digital advertisements, traditional advertising. How can an air show promoter really keep all of that consistent?
That's a great question. What I would suggest is using a spreadsheet, listing all the messaging platforms that are being used. There, like you mentioned, all the platforms, whether it's Facebook or whether it's websites and email campaigns, road signs, very, very important.
Yeah.
I mean, all of that, list them on a spreadsheet, and then last date checked, and then put a date down. And every have one person whose job it is to look at everything. Don't compartmentalize the messaging, because base ops for their website and their will look differently than the Facebook website on the commercial side. The message boards that the Highway Patrol builds, they're going to look different than anybody else thought of. So have one person set aside just to monitor the messaging so that everybody's consistent, and write down the last day you checked it. I would strongly recommend about an hour before the gates open, somebody look at all the message boards.
Yeah.
Somebody should be looking to make sure that there's no duplicate names on parking lots. But you have to have one person, like it's the messaging police.
Yeah.
And because everybody's in their own little compartmentalized function. They're doing their own thing, and they're doing it very well, but they may never know that there's actually a specialized air show website. They may think it's another website.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
Especially on Facebook. It
Absolutely.
can get really confusing because anybody can go make an event on on Facebook and call it, the name of your air show.
Yes. Anybody can do it.
Anybody.
Fraudsters can do it. Fraudsters can do it.
And it's a little scary.
Yes.
So one thing I would recommend is, if you haven't already, go ahead and make a Facebook event for your air show and send your existing followers to that event page, so that they can go ahead and say that they're interested in going, and you can build that interest on your Facebook page, so that when people go and look for your air show on Facebook, they can go ahead and find your event with the biggest following and know that, okay, this one has the biggest following. This is the one that I'm going to trust and believe, and you can put messaging in your bio to clarify, the official Facebook event page of so-and-so air show. Send them to your, your airport Facebook page or your Air Force Base page, so that they can recognize that credibility.
Right.
And if you can do that early, doing that alone will solve a lot of problems that you may face down the road otherwise with consistent messaging. Because, like we said, Joe Schmo can go and make a Facebook event page for your air show and false advertise.
Absolutely.
And you can report it, but now you're at the mercy of Facebook to take it down. And if you've ever tried to contact Facebook, it's not that easy, and they don't really respond to you very much, if ever. So you don't really want to rely on that. And I think that once you get close to your event, you can expect to communicate with your attendees throughout the weekend.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's a huge, crucial piece
Right.
to having a successful weekend for your show, whether it's email, whether it's SMS, you're sending text messages,
Right.
both mediums, when it's
Hmm.
a crucial message is important.
Absolutely. I mean, even take the show we just did. I mean, we AttendStar and you, as a matter of fact, were the point person for base security,
Yeah.
in the event that they needed to do an SMS text blast, for
Yeah.
example, out for some kind of medical issue or weather issue or something of that nature.
Right.
We're already connected to base security or airport security or the show producer for those kinds of things. Again, we've seen it firsthand on a base where you've got lightning within 5 miles of the base. You evacuate the parking lots. Everybody goes back to their car if possible, or goes to a hangar. And then the problem is, it's easy for the announcer to say, go back to your car. Once you get back to your car, how do you get them back to the base?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's a problem.
Right.
And I've actually been one of those people that had to clear the ramp. So we didn't know when to go back to the ramp. So, I mean, we're already plugged into the security side of the equation. In fact, we have a relationship. We even provide free internet for first responders on the internet, on the base, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So most bases have the same service we do, and a lot of airports don't. But one of the benefits of AttendStar is that we do have a special arrangement with AT&T,
Mm-hmm.
where we want to make sure the internet's working at all costs.
Yeah.
And that is pretty different.
Mm-hmm.
Again, everything on our list really happens from experience, from all of us on our team visiting air shows, going to air shows, and firsthand feeling the pain, seeing what's going on. And that's where our list is coming from. And like I mentioned earlier, when I first started the AttendStar, it was ticketing.
Yeah.
And then it turned into marketing because we already had the ticket buyers. And now we were to do lookalike audiences for Facebook. And now we were able to do additional things. And then it got into logistics. But more and more, the company really is focused on air shows. Now, what's nice about what we've done is it's applicable to other large outdoor events.
It is.
So that's what's actually pretty cool. And if you can do an air show with 80,000 people, you could probably do a 5,000 person event too.
Right.
So it really got us on the right track from the very beginning because, like I said, we started this for air shows. And mainly because I grew up as a pilot and a flight instructor. So I kind of loved aviation and I wanted free tickets. So I started ticketing air shows. But it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it really has been. And it's really a communication and messaging thing to make sure everybody's aligned.
Yeah. And I think a huge focus, and, if you're a client of ours, you'll see, a client update in the near future of how we're really hammering down and working on a great mobile version of AttendStar's Event Manager. And one reason we really want to nail that on the head is because when your show is going on,
right,
and when you're running around, you're probably not running around with a laptop.
Right. And it's streamlined. It's streamlined for the on-site management.
Yeah.
There is an on-site view where you can get rid of all the things like that you're not going to use at a show.
Yeah.
But and you can get instant updates too by email, or text back from the hourly traffic flow, things like that.
Yeah. And being able to, see an attendee list or a specific segment of buyers, pulling that up, or looking at something like sales reports, looking at how many admissions you've sold over the past couple of hours, things of that nature, will be much easier to use and see on AttendStar, which I think is really cool.
I'm looking forward to it. We're also doing a new version of the event manager itself, in addition to the mobile version. So it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it does look really good.
It's different. Yeah.
I'm excited to, I guess, get client feedback on it
me
and
too.
see how excited people are about it, because I definitely love it.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's fun too. It's putting it together is fun.
Yeah. And over the past couple of years, one thing that event marketing at AttendStar has specifically been focused on is designing the ticket sales page itself to be more mobile friendly, because there's been a huge shift in where people use their mobile devices to purchase tickets and to just look at the ticket sales page in general on their mobile devices instead of a tablet or a desktop or a laptop. And having that information of, hey, over 80% of people who view the ticket sales page and look at tickets and look at that information are on their mobile devices. You quickly understand that, okay, when we design the ticket sales page itself, the graphics, where we're putting the information, we need to really pay attention to how it looks like on mobile, because as marketers, we're using a laptop to do this, or a desktop. And so for your air show, I would really urge you to think about that and consider that, and make sure that whether it's your email marketing campaigns, whether it's your event website that you build, or even the ticket sales page, whether you're using us or using another ticketing provider, really pay attention and look at that mobile view, because that's where most of your attendees and prospects are going first.
Right. And we're a little bit unique. I have to brag about the mobile view.
Yeah.
Is that most websites will be have a mobile view or be mobile friendly and desktop friendly. We actually have a separate code base for mobile.
Pretty cool.
Because we found that it was difficult to get one view look good on both platforms. So we actually built a separate code base just for mobile.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we'll change that in the future or not, but we did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because you've been to a lot of sites where it looks great on desktop but not on mobile, or it looks great on mobile but not on desktop. It's the same code. It's just designed to be responsive, they call it. I'm not sure what that means, but it really sounds good. I mean, but we try to go the extra mile, because we one of the things we concern ourselves with is, speaking of mobile, we actually provided signs at our cost for the last air show we just did this past weekend that said, skip the line, buy online, and with QR codes. And we put those at the entrance to the parking lot. So when people were stuck in traffic getting into the lot, they could just take their phone, click it, and buy their tickets online. So that is the kind of real logistical kind of stuff that you don't really think about at the time.
Right.
But, when you've got to try a big line like that, it's important to try to get that traffic moving.
Yeah, anything we can do to help traffic flow is huge. And I think once we work with an air show, our level of being committed is cool to see.
It's pretty much all in. I mean, we don't, I mean, I'll give you several examples. Just the past weekend, for example, we probably did what was in our contract to do. We did, but we actually exceeded it. They were expecting 10 point of sales. We used 50.
And we usually do.
Yeah. I mean, we're ready for what gets thrown at us. We bought some Facebook advertising, for example. We did a lot of things that we had to react to quickly, and usually that's what helps us get invited back every year, is that ownership attitude that we're in this together. Because I mean, we get paid based on attendance. So and it's a great thing. You can even, with us, you could even play a higher ticket fee, include some of your marketing and logistics right into the ticket fee. For example, at the air show we just went to, I mean, there was 4 of us there. We spent, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 on additional items, and it was all covered in the ticket fees.
Yep.
So so the attendees paid for it.
Right.
You could do that with any ticketing platform, but we also do that too. We're ready, basically, because it really is what gets thrown at you. It really is, and we want to let people. We want people to come visit our bases, our Navy, Air Force, Marines, and so forth. We want them to come visit and see what they're doing, what they're experiencing, and we want them to enjoy aviation and love air shows. Yeah. Because my passion really is in it, and I live for it, basically. We live on complexity here. Yeah. And so people can call us anytime and talk through any subject they want.
Yeah.
I love talking about air shows.
Yeah. Call Gary. Call Gary whenever.
I don't like all the work at the air show as much, but I love talking about them in air-conditioned comfort.
Yeah, it's summer's around the corner, and those summer air shows are coming, and it does get hot.
It gets hot, but unfortunately, I go to a lot of air shows anyway.
Yeah,
because I love going, because I never stop learning. But it's a lot of fun. But it's really exciting to see how ticketing, marketing, logistics all come together. Mm-hmm. Very exciting to realize the interaction between them.
Yeah.
So
it is cool. And random food for thought this summer, if you have an air show this summer, make sure you tell your attendees whether or not they can bring a water bottle to the air show.
Yeah.
Every summer, that's
exactly.
the thing. People, can I bring water? Can I bring water?
Some you can, some you can't.
Some you can, some you can't.
It depends if it's an unopened bottle of water or an empty bottle for water. There are a lot of security, believe it or not, issues with liquids.
Yeah. It's part of it.
It's the world we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah. So. Well, Gary, we touched on a lot today.
Yeah, we did. It was fun.
And what's funny is there's a lot more to talk
about. There's a lot more. Yeah. So, write me, email me, and then I'll when I get my document done with my big list, I'll share it with y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for our season finale. We're going to take a break for a little while, and we'll let you know when we're back. Again, that date is to be determined, but it'll be sooner than later, I promise. So thanks for joining the AttendStar Happy Hour podcast, where we talk about all things ticketing, marketing, and logistics. Here with me today is Gary Bradshaw. My name is Brennan Robinson, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Bye, everybody.